We'll jump right into it. The focus of our panel today really is keep, cut, or grow. And I think what we want to try and address is this fundamental fork in the road that's a three-pronged fork that properties as well as sponsors really have to address quite frequently, particularly in today's environment of are we going to get more of these things that we have, these assets, or a greater, deeper relationship? Are we going to keep them the same, or do we got to kill it? Do we got to cut it back? And there are all different kind of paradigms out there. My current business is one that helps people work through these paradigms of what to keep and what to get rid of. And it's based on a Six Sigma process, but ultimately it's based upon whether or not those assets that are available help reach business goals. So that we're going to talk today with our panelists basically about the decision-making process that goes into get rid of the tickets, get more of the tickets, or stay the same and just let it roll over, and what influences those kind of decisions. And I have a set of 12 questions of which we'll skip through and have our panelists do a little bit of a comment on each one if we could. But if I could, just from left to right, just really quickly, I think you've read in the literature for this event who these people are already, but I thought what we'd do is start with Jason and just quickly move to the right as to who everybody is so that we can get an idea of the kind of people that are here and what they represent. So, Jason?
Good afternoon. I'm Jason Small. I'm the Sponsorship Operations Manager for Wells Fargo. I've been with Wells Fargo for 16 years.
Hi, I'm Claudia Bernhardt. I am also the Sponsorship Operations Manager for EMC, actually, and I've been with EMC for 17 years.
Hi everyone, I'm Matt Huff with Spotlight Ticket Management, Head of Account Services. I've been with Spotlight since inception back in 2007.
I'm Heather Fitzpatrick from Goldman Sachs. I manage season tickets and hospitality events, and I've been at Goldman for 14 years.
So we have a wealth of experience from the agency side as well as from the sponsorship side. My background was I was the head of Bank of America sponsorship program, so I'm quite familiar with it from my personal background, as well as I ran an agency within the big conglomerate called WPP. So I understand the agency side of it as well. What we don't have represented today, which was going to be somebody from a property, which was going to be from Roma, but that's okay. We can address that as well throughout our discussions. So what is the paradigm that different people use? What is the metric? What is the thought process that different sponsors and different agencies that help sponsors use to try and figure out, does this ticket purchase make sense? And I think that is in the context of today's environment, whether it's tickets, suites, luxury access, there's all kinds of things we could talk about. But in the context of today's environment where everything's under scrutiny and everything is potentially immediately made known to the world through social media, and we just have to look at owning an NBA team and how quickly that can just get ripped through the social media in a matter of less than like an hour. So if you think about the exposure that some of these people take in being connected with a property, it's pretty significant, and I think there's an increasing demand by senior management that's under the same pressure to prove what it is that they're putting this money into. There's increasing pressure to have some sort of reason for why we're doing these tickets, not just we had these tickets last year, we've always been a sponsor of blank, et cetera. So I think that particular pressure has become very prevalent nowadays, and every company has a different model as to how they handle that question of how they're going to sell it politically internally. And I think we'll start with the first question, is kind of addressing directly into that area. So oftentimes, if you're a sponsor, you'll get approached with a proposal that'll say for $100,000, for $50,000, for whatever level of money, we'll call you a platinum, a naming, official partner, whatever we want to call you, but for that level, here's your list of assets, and that's going to be 50 seats to every game, and 20 of which will be on the ice, and it'll be a list of things, including signage and suites, and maybe breakfast with the coach or the GM or something like that. When that data is presented to you guys as purchasers or reviewers of this material, and I think we'll start, if we could, with you at the end, Heather. All that data that gets thrown in front of you, what are the important data points that you look at that's important in your decision-making process as to whether or not this would be an interesting opportunity for Goldman?
Well, I manage the tickets, so I actually don't do sponsorships. We have another group that does sponsorships, but I know that when they're reviewing sponsorship opportunities, there has to be a charitable component to it. But for tickets, when we are looking at different opportunities to take on new season tickets or suite commitments, we want to make sure that, or renewing, actually. So if we're going to renew our Yankee suite, we like to see a 70% utilization rate for client entertainment. So we look through the numbers. You know, we use a online software system that we track the utilization, and the threshold is 70%.
And so if it's below 70, it might be considered for non-renewal or a reduction in the amount of assets of tickets, whatever.
Right. We also consider the relationship that we have with the team, or if we've, had a hand in financing the stadium, et cetera. Those other things are taken into consideration. We have a private wealth clients that own the team, or, other factors, but typically that's 70%.
Sure, and that's a peculiar, not peculiar, but a particular aspect of the banking world. When you bank, you generally are it's definitely a quid pro quo. If you think about it, from your experience with your clients, Matt, what would you say would be the big metrics they look at when approached for an additional, an initial, or a renewal purchase of tickets or suites?
What we've seen, and I think this echoes a lot of what we've heard today, that it's about the demand that their clients will have for that particular asset. They want something that's popular, but also that fits with their business. There are certain companies we work with that they're really focused on luxury suites because of that entertainment experience. There's other very, very large sponsors that they get so much ticket volume, they're not as interested in the suite component, but just the volume of tickets. How many people can we get out to see the signage that we have to entertain those customers? So it really depends on the company, but really it's value to their end customers.
Claudia?
Yeah, pretty much what Matt and Heather said. It's basically the utilization with our customers and the amount that we're actually getting out to the customer as the end user. And as long as there's a strong usage by the customer, then we can kind of go on and decide if we want to renew or add more or take away. That's pretty much what we do.
Great. Thank you. Jason?
Ours is a lot the same as Heather's approach as well. We really strive for 100% ticket usage, so we take when we step into any type of endeavor and when we're renewing a relationship, we pay close attention to those numbers, and if we're going to be able to attain what we want to attain. And primarily we look at the business and the prospect business, and also the donation or the charitable component that was mentioned earlier, and those are our two primary goals there. Now, obviously the popularity of a property plays into that greatly, and also the type of entertainment that we're doing. When we set our priorities, for the most part we do a lot of suite entertaining, but we have to be very diverse because our clientele is very diverse. And for example, we may have clients that may not be interested or comfortable being in a suite type of environment, but would rather be in a stadium seating situation. And so we try to be diverse and nimble so that we can accommodate all of our different needs that our clients have.
Great, thanks. So when you think about that, of all those things, they're all some form of ROI, whether it's utilization of 70% or greater, or it happens to fit a particular deal that's in a larger part of the relationship between the bank or whatever your enterprise is and the property itself. If you could pick the top two things, and I'll go the other way this time with Jason, top two things, what are the two top most important metrics that you look at when you consider a new proposal, somebody new coming to you? Is it number of tickets? Is it geographic location? Is it popularity of the team, affinity of the team, the fan base? What are the two biggest metrics that you look at?
Well, I would certainly say the popularity of the team and that fan base would play into it, certainly. Probably number one. Otherwise, why would you be there? Because your clients wouldn't want to be there. And then secondly, it would be the type of access that we would have with those assets. A lot of times these days, you're not just looking for simply tickets to go to an event, but you're also looking for other unique opportunities that can make that experience special for those clients or memorable.
I agree. It's the same. We want to make sure that the team is popular, it's sought after, that your customer wants to go, wants to be there. You want to offer them an experience. So the better the team or the better the venue, the more leverage you have there. And then that's probably number one. And then number two is just what the amenities that come with it. It really makes a difference. Like you said, it's not just the ticket. It's what kind of the parking and what the experience is when they walk into the stadium. That all kind of comes into play.
Okay, let me change it up a little bit for Matt and Heather then, along the same exact line. What really is, in your opinion, something that defines a great relationship with a property? I mean, how do you say, she said, I love this team or this venue or this entertainment opportunity, where this one has just been, I just struggle with. Matt, what do you see from your clients? What are the number? Just pick two things.
Sure. I think it's, and this really aligns with how Spotlight approaches things too with our customers. They're looking for service, accessibility to whoever's important, or whoever is tasked with servicing their account. They need to make sure that the responsiveness is there, because as they're entertaining corporate clients and customers nonstop, they need to make sure that if something happens, they have somebody to call right away that can fix that for them. So we get a lot of feedback on service in that regard. I think the other, the main thing that they're looking at is the overall value that comes with those deals. We often get calls, even though we don't act in this capacity officially, we get a lot of calls from our customers who are entertaining new deals, and they'll ask us, what do you think about this? How do you think about this? Is this a good value for our overall package? So we don't have an official position on that, but we'll say, hey, this makes sense, or maybe this doesn't. Maybe you can look at these numbers based on what you've used in the past to help inform that decision.
Terrific. Heather, what defines a great relationship, the one that you want to do business with?
I think flexibility is really important to us. So a couple of new deals that we've taken on over the last year, the venue or the team, they've been really flexible about what kind of packages they can tailor to our needs. So it's not just a straight up take a suite for every game or stadium seats. It's, we can have 10 suites to 10 events and 2 event experiences and different types of packages like that. And also, I think it's important for the team that works at the venue to be an extension of our team. So when we need parking passes at the last minute, or standing room only tickets, or need to add on to a food and beverage order, that they're very responsive and flexible with that as well.
I like to add on, I like to support everything that was just said, but I also, with these relationships, we need to be very nimble, and they need to be open to change and working with us in a lot of instances. And I find that a lot of the relationships that I've had over the years is that the properties a lot of times are gearing their sales pitch or their support towards us, the client, not really understanding our business. And a point could be a fantasy day, for example, for their suite holders. They want us to come out. Well, our sales folks, we're not going to pull them out to go to a fantasy day for our suite. It's not us as a focus. But I'll tell you what, if you have some open slots and we can bring a client to that event, that works for us. And we do things like that, or work on the fly to make adjustments to things that are otherwise kind of suite owners, rather be more of a tool that those suite owners can leverage for their business.
Yeah, I also think that some of the teams are very proactive in offering the unique experiences or field passes, or and bringing it to our attention. I know someone said on an earlier panel that they really expect us, I think it was the team who said they expect the companies to come to them, but we don't always know what's available, or what is, whether you can get people on a locker room tour or backstage for a concert and things like that. So that is important to me, like for the venue or the team to be proactive and come up with some ideas for us.
Great. So one of the things we look at in a lot of our clients, especially the telecom world clients, is going to be something called lifetime value of a customer, and I think most people would be familiar with that. But just briefly, lifetime value of a customer is not this year's payment or this year's cell phone bill, but literally what the next 10 years add up to. So you know how much value that client is. In the other side of the world, and the property side of the world, there's a lifetime value of a sponsor, right? When you have to replace a sponsor, it is extremely expensive and something you want to avoid at nearly all costs from a property perspective, because the recruiting costs, the time, the legal fees, the signage change out, all that stuff just kills you. So you don't want to change sponsors. In light of that, what's the most important thing? They don't want to change, the property world does not want to change sponsors. It's very rare that they hate a sponsor, even if the sponsor is not a very likable person that they interact with. It's very rare they want to try and find new revenue to replace that, especially if it's a category sale. And from your side, you're looking to how do I, work with my management to keep it. If you had to say there was one important thing that they could do to retain your business, so they've pitched you, you've bought, it makes sense, you've bought into it, it seems to work, and they're working with you. What's the most important thing they can do to retain your business so that they can renew you? I'll throw it out to whoever's ready to answer.
I'll say this, bonuses. I mean, what added value are you going to bring to the table? Surprise and delight me with an opportunity that, that will make a huge difference in my, my business.
I agree. I think giving little extra bonuses out there and kind of surprising us and saying, hey, I have this, and educating us on what's available to us, and just being super accessible is huge, just for the last minute things, and then just for things that we never even think of, because like she said, we don't always know what you can do, and I understand you don't always want to throw it out there, but it does help when we're kind of educated much further in advance on what you can do, even, just by way of field passes or, extra parking passes, or getting in the stadium earlier or staying later or any kind of thing, because we don't really get that until sometimes it's right before the game or right before the event, and we can't then coordinate with our customers. And so that kind of stuff is huge. It's really helpful.
So bonuses and surprise, extra value. That
little extra things that you can do that are outside of what you have on your sponsorship is huge.
Right, and that doesn't mean an extra cake at Christmas or something like that. For you personally, it means...
No, it could be as simple as
fine.
those like upgrading some courtside seats so
Right.
that our clients can have an opportunity to go down to that courtside. Maybe we come back, second quarter, and the next client goes down.
Right,
Or maybe the dancers are coming by, or the mascot, to do photo opportunities with our clients, and that's kind of exciting.
Right.
I would say one of the things we hear a lot is right sizing, making sure that if there is a renewal or if it's a new deal, that whoever is pitching that knows the business of the customer, knows what worked for them and what didn't in prior years. We talk to our sales reps a lot about this when we're selling the software tool, that you have to pitch the right solution. And in a lot of cases, you'll get sort of a cookie cutter proposal of what the venue can do or provide, but knowing, and again, because companies are armed more now with tools to understand their ROI, their ticket usage, if you go in and you overpitch, you want to give them 1,000 ticket bank. Well, that ticket bank, we didn't use 25%. You need to make sure you are just really right-sizing those to make sure that the deal is going to make sense for your customer to get them to retain.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay, Heather agrees. So let's switch over to the strategy side of this thing for just a second, and I'll combine probably two questions. It'd be interesting to see from your perspective, from trends that you've seen within your organizations, what is the trend that you see over the next 5 years for ticket or suite or grounds access or whatever it is? What do you see the trend is? Do you see the trend from the sponsor side as being increasing, that there'll be greater demand? And if so, would there be demand for more elite experiences or better individual experiences, or for, and often might be the case, to hide people out there in the bowl so it doesn't look like you have a big presence, or hide them out in the regular seats? So do you see do you see it increasing, staying level, or going lower over the next 5 years? And since you got to agree, Heather, you can start with that one.
Okay. I've seen since 2010, I've definitely seen an increase in our season ticket utilization and season ticket purchases. I think from what I see, like I mentioned before, we're starting to do more tailored packages. So we've just entered into a suite share for the new 49ers stadium with, thank you, sorry. With the new, for the new 49ers stadium, we've entered into a suite share, and we're doing some more tailored packages with some of the different venues that we haven't been in before. So I definitely see it increasing.
So increasing at the bank.
From the season ticket perspective, yeah.
Yeah, and the suite perspective?
Yes.
Same thing?
For suite, yes.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think from a customer standpoint, customers like to be treated well. So I feel like it's increasing. I know that I sell out my suite and my more premium seats much quicker than I do my stadium seating. I feel like, our goal is to entertain our customer and for better our business. So they like to be wined and dined, and so I do feel like it's just going to keep increasing, and they want a better experience as time goes on. So I don't feel like there's going to be a decline in that at all.
Good, so optimistic in terms
Yeah.
of increased usage?
Yeah.
I'm also very optimistic about increased usage, and I think we try to top ourselves every year and do better and better with what we do with our clients and providing that unique experience, and how can we top the year before. And even the technology has helped us a lot in that regard as well, and in shaping those experiences.
From a agency perspective, have you seen an increase, stay the same, or decrease?
I think it depends on the goals of the customer. I think the venues are reacting in certain ways to give more premium experiences, but at the end of the day, so many of our customers really value the suite experience. So I don't know if the venues will continue to repurpose some of that real estate like they are. They're definitely getting creative, which I think they have to do. But most of the customers we're working with are very focused on B2B experiences, and you really can't beat that with the suites. So we've seen tremendous suite utilization in our numbers, not as much on the regular ticket side because it is valued as a more premium experience. But I think from another trend aspect, obviously from the technology perspective, is that companies are becoming more and more mature about tracking this every day and utilizing the tools that they have and integrating them with their expense systems, their CRM, electronic ticketing, all that. The technology is catching up quickly, and it's great to see that so many of our partners are embracing that for not only the stuff that we're offering in our little niche, but just across the board to make sure they're getting the best experience possible.
Great, I've got one very, very strategic question, which I think is really interesting, but then we're going to have just a few minutes left. It's 20 till, so we'll have maybe a potential for a question or two. If you have any questions, be thinking of them, if you would, please. So long-term trends, right? This is a big question that I actually still get asked quite a bit from clients. Is it action sports? Is it WNBA? Is it Olympics? Is it what is a long-term trend? I think first of all, in terms of ticket demand, where is that long-term trend going to be seen, and what would that long-term trend manifest itself in terms of access? Is it special parts to that? So, for instance, if you want to go to the Olympics, we can get you tickets to the Olympics in a second. However, if you want to go to the USOC special reception at the U.S. House at the Olympics, that's another whole level of stuff. So what do you see in terms of, I guess I would call it properties or venues or segments of the entertainment world, including sports, I think very importantly, as being the long-term trend of where you're going to see greater demand over the next 5 years? And conversely, if you know, do you see a place where it's going to be contracting? Do you see a contraction of interest? And if you just look over the last 100 years, baseball had its boom and then it's contracted. You've seen mixed martial arts has had a huge boom. The question whether it's peaked or if it's contracting. So do you have any projections? Would anybody care to venture that?
I would just say if anyone knows, Wells Fargo's very involved with MLS soccer now, and I see that as a big trend as we move forward into the future, from my seat anyway.
Any other long-term trends?
I think the Olympics is another one. I know that we're working on some customer-based things out there in Rio, so I know that the Olympics are a big deal, and people like to have that access to that.
And are you thinking more of Olympics on an IOC level, a USOC level, or a national governing body level?
I think my manager's been working that, and I'm pretty sure it's probably a little bit of everything.
A little bit across the board. Yeah,
Yeah.
we see that quite a bit.
Yeah.
In fact, we had a USOC sponsorship. We officially sponsored the women's volleyball team, the women's hockey team.
Yeah.
We had quite a group of NGBs as well. And we went down to athletes. We had quite a number of athletes as well. Heather, you were going to say something?
I agree about the unique experiences and things that people can't get on their own, because obviously most of our clients are very wealthy people, and so that's really important to them. But soccer is also starting to become more popular with Goldman as well. We don't have any season soccer tickets yet, but I can see that probably coming down the way in a few years. And I think that's it. I had another thought. I can't remember it now, though. Sorry.
But mostly, are you referring to like MLS level soccer?
Yes.
Okay. Matt?
It certainly depends on the category of sponsorship, but one of the things we're seeing a lot of growth in addition, we've been talking about experiences, but companies packaging the experiential assets in with their ticket assets is something we're seeing a lot of long-term. So venues that can offer those types of assets along with the run-of-the-mill ticket are seeing a lot of success with that. Another thing that's interesting to me is that, a lot of the conversations we have revolve around, the venues bundling certain assets for their customers. There's going to be certain, items that aren't always in high demand, like some family shows or some concerts or things like that. One of the things we're seeing more and more of is companies, and again, it's very category dependent, but sponsoring of theme parks and using those sponsorships as assets, because at the end of the day, they would love to give someone, that 4-day park hopper to Disneyland if they can, because that's hugely meaningful for that customer's family. So they're thinking about their end users as well, and I think they'll continue to do that. In a sports and entertainment setting, it's like Claudia and Jason both said, it's all about the corporate client at the end of the day. So I think that's the trend that we'll see.
I think you're really onto something there, and probably the big thing that we discovered was when we were doing a lot of the fantasy day training camps and things like that with the NFL and the NBA, it wasn't so much that the clients wanted to be out there with their bankers or their financial consultants. They really wanted their families to be there to watch them. They wanted them to be the star of the day. They wanted their kids to see dad out on the field, or even mom out on the field, which was fantastic. And so you do see those types of family activities have starting to grow. And I think that over time, we see ourselves doing more and more of that every day. In fact, those fantasy camps are no longer what they used to be. They've already transformed in like family days, essentially.
I feel like concerts have been a real big on the rise too. I've been doing this for quite a while, but I feel like in the last 2 years, concerts have just exploded. And when I get the name of the customer, it's usually a customer who wants to bring, the 1D. He wants to take his 7-year-old daughter, and he wants to be the hero to take her to the concert. And so that is huge, and that I find a really growing trend. And just to kind of go back, anytime you can involve the customer with their family, because a lot of times, a lot of the events are on weekends or, are off business hours. So you're asking your customer to go away from his family. So if you can include their family, that's another big bonus, and they love it and they remember that. So.
And that reminds me, don't be so sports-centric. Remember the music, because it makes a huge difference in your portfolio. Someone once sat down with me at the table and talked about my portfolio and pointed out some things to me. And that was one of the things I noticed that we were lacking in. And you need not to be so niched into just sports, but really opening up to arts and the other opportunities that are out there.
Yeah.
I remembered. One thing that I've noticed as a trend is that one of our businesses at Goldman, and I think it's contagious, is more interested in doing conferences in the sports venues around specifically New York. They've done Yankee Stadium, they've done Barclays, they've done Madison Square Garden. And so I think other businesses are hearing about those conferences, and that's something we're getting more calls on.
And that could be internal or external.
Yeah, well, that's terrific. Well, it's 2:45, and I think partially one of the reasons they asked me to be moderator is because I have a military background and they want me to shut up at 2:45. And surprise, Bill Dorsey standing there with the hook to pull me off stage here. So unfortunately, there won't be time for questions, but I'd like to thank Jason, Claudia, Matt, and Heather for joining us here today, and thank you all for attending. I appreciate it, and have a great conference.